Okay, live. So hi, welcome. My name's Danielle. This is Nick,
Hey guys.
my husband. I've been a coach for about 2 years, a little over 2 years now. And I want to talk to you guys about the journey that we've kind of been on throughout the 2 years as a husband and wife. I had some of my coaches write down some questions. I asked Nick some questions. So we're kind of just going to do a kind of wing it a little bit.
Freestyle.
Yeah. Little backstory. We are high school sweethearts, and then we broke up for a little bit and then got married. We've been married for a little over 4 years. Nick's in the military. When he joined, I was still working. And then when we moved to Alaska, I was pregnant, so I didn't get a job. So we were a single income family. And in September, about like 6 months after I had Evan, my son, I was kind of desperate to find a solution to start losing weight and get the baby weight off. And so I reached out to my now coach. She sent me some samples of Shakeology and I really liked it. But since we were a single income family, I kind of felt guilty for spending Nick's money. He never made it seem like it was his money. It was my own personal thing. I had always worked myself. And so I wasn't used to not having my own income and I felt guilty. So I waited until February when I started my own job and used my own income to sign up as a coach. So that's our kind of background story. So I'm going to ask him some questions and we'll get going. So first things first.
Well, before we start, I just want to kind of throw it out there. We did talk about some questions prior to starting this broadcast. So I have some notes in front of me. So if I look down, I'm trying to look at my notes just to get what I want to say kind of out there fluidly and not so sporadic. So don't think I'm just like looking off in the distance. I'm trying to, I'll process some of the questions, think about them, and then try to get my perspective as best as I can. So we'll kind of freestyle, but I have some notes, so we'll just roll with it. So whenever you're ready.
All right. So when I first told you I was signing up as a coach, what did you think?
Well, being a typical guy, I thought, all right, what does this mean? How's it going to work? I basically asked a lot of questions. I wanted to know if I'm going to be supporting this financially or we're going to be supporting this financially. I don't want to be left in the dark about it. I want to know exactly what's going on, how it all works. I'm a I need to see things kind of guy. So
Numbers.
If I'm not seeing results, if things aren't working out positively, I then become a little hesitant and I may not trust it as much as I would like to. So I kind of asked a lot of questions to start out. I kind of thought, Danielle had come and told me, hey, if I work this business really hard and I dedicate a lot of time and I put my heart and energy into this, I could be seeing a good financial benefit from it. And I thought to myself, yeah, well, if it was that easy, then why isn't everybody doing it kind of thing? It seems too good to be true. So I think the main huge part that I might keep coming back to is I think it's crucial that being a coach, you need to tell your spouse, look, this is how it works. We would always talk like, hey, did you sign a coach today? Hey, what is this? How much more stuff do you need to complete to maybe make the next rank? Or, like I said, I'm a results guy, so I want to see, hey, you're progressing. Here's how you're doing it. And you have a goal, and now we're going to watch you make it. And then once you make that goal, okay, let's go to the next phase, and you're going to work your way all the way up. So once I started seeing that, I guess you could say I became more of a believer in the whole system, since I was kind of hesitant at first. But I hope that answers the question as best I can.
I'm going to kind of spin off of that. So if you're already a coach, I highly recommend that you include your husband in this. It should be a team thing. It should be it should be our team. Because I couldn't do this without his support. Even in the beginning when I didn't feel super supported, it wasn't that he was against it or anything, but like he said, he had a lot of hesitations. He wasn't like, yes, let's go do this. He wanted answers. He wanted to see some results, and which is normal.
And I think it helps. I think it helps the coach when the husband is more challenging. Like she would say, it started out where she wasn't making very much, but then let's say she was making $250 a week. And I was like, okay, good. You got to $250. That's promising. We're making some some headroom here. When are you gonna start hitting 500? When's 500 a week gonna come? So when a husband or a spouse does that, it gives you as a coach the extra drive to, okay, he's building confidence in me. I got to keep going now. I can build off this. It steamrolls, and next thing you know, it's a snowball effect, and that 250 becomes 500, becomes 600, 700, on and on and on. So I think that support from the spouse is crucial. That's why you really need to get your spouse involved in knowing exactly
volume and he knows all that, and I think that that's important. It excites me when we get to talk about something that's important to me, so he can come home from work and talk about his job, and then I can talk about my job, and it's something that we can relate on. So someone wanted to know, why as a spouse would you continue to support your spouse as a coach when they aren't making a lot in the beginning? So, a month or two goes by and they aren't seeing much. What do you say?
Well, I'm going to have some stuff written down, but I'm going to freestyle this. You need to understand that when you start out, it's not going to be, rainbows and unicorns. There's going to be the dog days. You have to put in the work. It's like if you go to the gym and you're not getting big and bulky within, a month. Obviously, it takes time. You have to work your way up. So you need to kind of let your spouse know that, hey, in the first month, it might be rough. It might take me 6 months. But if you as a coach are going to put in the hard work and dedication, you're going to eventually see those results. And I mean, it might sound cliche, might be saying that, but it's living proof. I mean, she did it. And she's continuing to grow. So another thing I have written down is draw up a timeline with your spouse, because as a married couple or whatever your situation may be, money out of your guys' pocket together affects both of you. So what I like to think is a good way to do it is say, hey, here's a goal for 6 months. Maybe at the 6-month mark, for example, I'm now at least breaking even from what I'm spending on, products and all the monthly expenditures. Now I'm breaking even with it. So then you set another goal. Hey, maybe by 7 or 8 months, now I'm making a couple $100 a week profit. So once you start seeing that I think will help your spouse really jump on board and throw their whole support behind what you're trying to do.
I think the communication is really key in that. And as a coach, to be gut checking yourself and saying, am I really doing what I should be doing? Because my spouse is depending on me, and I wouldn't expect Nick to support me if I wasn't doing my job. I couldn't be mad at him if he was like, okay, well, you need to either, make something happen or quit if I wasn't doing the job. So as a coach, you need to gut check yourself and make sure that you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing to progress in your business, sort of thing. Let's see. Oh, a huge thing. Time as a coach that you spend on your phone or your computer, because a lot of the time you're just like this. And even when we're watching TV or a hockey game or something, my face will be in a phone or a computer, sort of thing. And I feel like I've gotten better at it, and we've communicated about it. But in the beginning, obviously, it's not so easy. So as a spouse.
Well, from my perspective, I think this topic is probably the hardest for me as a husband. It does take up a lot of time, but I try to weigh the pros and cons, I guess you could say. So her sitting there on her phone doing what she's doing or staying up late where I go to sleep by myself at night sometimes, I just see it as almost an investment. This reassures me that she's actually applying herself and she's investing all the time she has to progress what she's doing. So yeah, it's hard for me sometimes, but at the end of the day, I had to see it as a positive thing, and not so much as a negative, part of what it's a negative thing that affects anyone's marriage or their time together. But I think a big thing is try to take really good advantage of your free time. So I try to tell her while I'm working, take advantage of the time I'm not home to dedicate to your job, so that when I do come home, we have our time. But that our situation isn't like everyone else. I mean, there might be times where you're already doing a 9 to 5 job, and then you both come home, and now you have to manage, hey, what am I going to do with this free time I have before I go to sleep? Am I going to be working? Am I going to be spending it with my spouse? How am I going to do this? So another good thing could be, make some business hours. Let's say, you guys want to sit down when you get home from work, or you want to enjoy dinner together. So then dedicate your, let's say, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. You want to make your business time. And then from 8:30 till you go to sleep, that's the time you really take to enjoy your spouse and do things together, or whatever it may be that you guys find enjoyable, do that. So
yeah,
business hours might be a good way for you to
and set them together. Again, this is a communication. Set them together. I got home from the conference in January. I didn't even start this till almost 2 years into the business, and I text him. I think he was at work, and I was like, "Hey, I'm setting business hours. When do you want to hang out with me?"
And it's not always easy to keep those business hours either. It's very difficult. I mean, we try to, and I'll admit we failed terribly. I mean, I think we still do fail at it, but you just got to try your best and find out what works for you, because everyone's going to be different. Yeah. So you've really got to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, I agree. There's a Q&A that you guys can type into if you have any questions, but I know that, time on the computer was big time questions that coaches have, and a spouse's point of view was needed. But pretty much that's our story. We make it work by communicating. This is like marriage counseling on here, but communication is really the key to this. Having him support me in the sense that he asks questions and he understands the business and really gains an understanding of it is huge. I think in the beginning, a lot of spouses might think that their wife is doing this as like a hobby, and it's just like another multi-level marketing sort of thing. And I felt like Nick felt that same way, and so I would stay up late. When I first started, I was a daycare provider in our home, and I was working 60 hours a week. I would work from 6:30 in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday, 6 kids in our house. So it's not like it's not like I had all day to coach, but I made sure that I proved it to him. That was my thing. I'm a big time. I wanted to prove it to him, and I feel like once I started to show him and communicate with him, and I would text him, "Hey, I sold this," or "Hey, I signed up a coach," or "Hey," I would send him screenshots of like people thanking me, and that was huge for me. And I think that showed him that I wasn't, this isn't just for money. It really fills my cup too, and I think that helps him support me as well.
I think one important thing from my personal perspective, when I knew she really wanted to become a coach and do this, I thought to myself, how am I going to be supportive? If I can't support her, if I'm not showing her that I love her and support her, that looks bad for me as a husband. So, yeah, it might cost some money to do this every month, but is my wife worth $115 a month to do what she wants to do, even if she's not making money to begin with? Absolutely. If it brings her joy, I mean, my main purpose in my life and in my marriage is to make my wife happy, and that's the number one thing. So how could I justify and go to her and say, you're not worth $115 a month to try this? I can personally find ways to find the money available in my budget every month to allow my wife to do what she wants to do. So I think that's something a husband has to really look at himself in the mirror and say, is my wife worth this? I mean, do I want to take her out to dinner twice a month, or do I want to support her for an entire month in her business? do I need to go buy, I don't know, a couple cases of beer a month, or do I want to be selfish and buy whatever it is, whatever your luxuries are that you spend per month, why not cut some of that out and invest it in your wife? If you have confidence in her and you back her in everything she does in her life, I mean, that, as a husband, that's what you swore to when you took your vows to love and support your wife. So why can't you give them $115 a month if they can't personally afford it? I mean, as a man, I feel like that's my duty and that's my job to my wife. So you might not think it works. You might not think it's going to work, but without risk, there's no reward. So you should definitely give it a chance. I mean, I did, and it's turning out to be pretty nice for us so far. I mean, with only room to grow. So I think that's
disclaimer: Beachbody does not guarantee any level of success. Success is based on each person's diligence, skill, work,
dedication.
So, yeah, sure. Exactly. So just throwing that disclaimer out there in case Beachbody lawyers are out there. But yeah, I definitely agree. Take the time and find the places where you can cut back if the financial aspect of it is difficult. I knew that for me, I wanted to cover what I was spending. I loved Shakeology, and that's actually the reason I became a coach. I wanted the discount. So I became a coach for the discount. I loved the product. And then when I realized I could make enough to cover it, that was my first goal. And so I definitely agree that investing in your spouse and supporting them, even if you don't understand it at first, is really, really important. So
just last thing before I don't know if there's more Q&As. I just want to go back to the extreme importance I found as a spouse. The number one important thing to me was to, come up with a plan. You have to set a goal, because if she would have came to me and 6 months later it wasn't working, I would really have to check myself on, hey, how much longer am I willing to go? So I think as a coach and as someone, as your spouse, you really need to come up with that timeline. And, after a while, if it's not working, maybe reevaluate how you're doing your job, or maybe, you want to stop doing what you're doing. And that's something I think you have to take into account of your marriage. So when do you throw in the towel?
Yeah.
I think is crucial, because you don't want this to become a problem in your marriage.
Yeah, a driving wedge. This should add value to your marriage. I mean, some days, obviously, the phone and the computer sort of thing can throw a little wedge into it, but I agree. It shouldn't be something that, tears your marriage apart, sort of thing.
But once you're meeting those goals and you're achieving them, I think that gives you a tremendous amount of momentum. I think it's a good word.
Yeah.
To continue to do what you're doing and to even work harder to achieve your next goals, because you don't want to plateau. You want to keep progressing and climbing the mountain. So I think setting goals are absolutely crucial.
As a couple, or as a couple. It's about husband and wife setting goals together. So communication is key. So that's really it. All we have for you guys.
I guess if you come up with more questions, we can do this again if you want. I mean,
yeah.
I know it was only a few questions I answered, but I don't know, maybe more questions arose after you guys watch this. So if so, feel free to
comment below, and maybe we'll do this again, or shoot me a message, anything like that. So, all right. Thanks, guys.
Good luck.
Bye.